Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the movement. We are the movement. We're a motivational organization there to educate minds, empower, nurture, and transform. And as we so affectionately say, as Annette very nicely rolls her neck, we are a movement to move. Yes, we are a movement to move. We want to see you thrust into your purpose so that you can start living the best version of yourself and win. We want to see everybody win. We've tapped into some winning resources, sitting at the winner's table. It is our season. It's time to win, y'all. Right, Annette?
That is so right, as Anita so wonderfully put it. We are on the winning circle. We want to share with you all the things that we've learned, and we're excited as always tonight, and we're looking forward to sharing with you.
Yeah, we like gathering and having these discussions. These discussions really help us, help each other. We don't claim to know everything. We're not psychologists. We're lifeologists. We've lived, we've experienced, and we want to share our lives and experiences with you. And we do a lot of research that will help us make all of our lives better. We just want to live the best version of ourselves, and we want you to do the same. So with that being said, we are diving into tonight's discussion. Tonight's discussion is keeping in with our theme. You know, we've been preparing for 2020, and everything this month that we're talking about is kind of coinciding with being in flight mode. So with that being said, we're like, wow, this is going to be an interesting turn of events. Interesting turn of events, because tonight's topic is in-flight turbulence. Now, I know we touched on this for those of you who were with us last week. We touched on this slightly in our discussion about in-flight turbulence, but we're going to kind of unpack it a little bit tonight. Y'all mind? No, y'all don't mind. Okay, that's nice. So you notice I answered in the third person. So right now I'm going to go ahead and open up our PowerPoint before I get started. I know that's a little strange side of me. Before I get started with our introduction, but our topic tonight, and I learned some things. I've been on many flights, but I learned some things while preparing for this.
Yeah, you're right.
And we, like I said, we touched on this a little bit in our last week's discussion. And tonight we're going to unpack. But most of us have had the privilege of flying in an airplane at some point or another. Most of us, if not all of us. It's very rare, honestly, that I run into a person who's never been on an airplane. It's very common to have the pilot come over the speaker and announce for everyone, and this is all mid-flight. You'll take off, you'll be fine, and ding, he turns off the fasten seatbelt sign. Everybody could get up, move about the cabin. People get them going to the bathroom. The little ladies in the aisle with, getting stuff for people, passing out blankets and headphones and all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the pilot comes over the speaker and announces for everyone to take their seats because we're experiencing turbulence. And sometimes it's not just the passengers. Sometimes it will require, or she'll require, that the entire cabin, the crew and the passengers would take their seats, because it's just too dangerous in the turbulence to be standing about without a security harness. So I've been on flights where there hasn't been a cloud in the sky, and out of nowhere it's turbulence, because many would think that turbulence just comes about when there's rain, and that's not true. Turbulence is caused when you cross a barrier between two different currents. Mm-hmm. That means that there's something going on each side of you, and it's moving in a different direction. If you look at this picture, you'll see this plane, and on one side you'll see the clouds circling in one direction, and on the other side you'll see the clouds circling in a different direction. And when you go into the path of two different currents like that, you're crossing the barrier, you experience turbulence. And this creates agitation or commotion. The plane starts jumping and bumping and boom, 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 boom. And it's not a fun thing when you're experiencing turbulence, because sometimes it can just jar you and throw you. And sometimes I've been in some rough turbulence. But when we look at the word turbulent, and I'm going to go a little round and round the world with this word here tonight, because there's something interesting that I learned in my research. Of course, turbulence is, of course, it's caused by the two different currents, and you're going into the cross barrier. But turbulent winds is what we're dealing with when we're experiencing that in an airplane, and it's also referred to as tempestuous.
Mm.
And I looked at that word like, tempestuous, what is that? And in my mind, of course, I'm going to look at the root word. I'm like, wow. I said, And I started singing, Master, the tempest is raging. I was like, oh. So then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, it's where the word tempest comes from. You know what? How many times have we sang that song and never really knew what tempest meant? I'm sure at one point or another, I looked up the word because that's just how I am. But of course, it didn't dawn on me. And I looked again, I'm like, oh, that's right. Tempestuous, when it refers to turbulence. I never put those two together, but somehow I kind of knew that tempest meant storm. And so when I looked at that word tempest and I looked it up in its tenses, of course, it is a word that is in a verb form because turbulence is not. Turbulence is a noun. So when I looked up tempest, it means to raise a violent storm or chaos in or around.
Wow.
So there's something that raises in or around that is, it has the tense of being violent or ferocious or, chaotic, agitative. It's tempest. And so when I'm looking at it, we're like, oh, so that's why he was saying, Master, the tempest is raging, the billows are tossing high. So when I look at, it was like, wow, it took me to a place. So I thought about this as it relates to, because last week we were dealing with the eagle. And I thought about this when we were talking about the eagle and how he uses the storm to his advantage, and he uses those winds and gets them beneath his wings and goes to the next level. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So it's the eagle who will fly in all types of winds because other birds won't. And you know what I learned is that in most cases they can, but they're afraid of turbulence. And birds who are afraid of turbulence will never know how high they can really fly. Because at the sign of turbulence, they don't want to fly. They stop and they seek a place to sit out and wait out the turbulence, or they go into a different direction, or they fly nowhere. But that's because they fear what the turbulence is going to do, because remember, it brings agitation. It's chaotic. And so I looked at, of course, right here, I'm using the plane. The plane is built to encounter turbulence because it needs turbulence in order to fly. So it's built to encounter an enormous amount of turbulence and very strong turbulence. And I'm like, so if the eagle is built to encounter turbulence and fly, and the bird who is afraid of turbulence won't fly, and the plane is built for the turbulence and can fly and does fly, then so can I. I'm built for the turbulence that I will encounter even when I'm in flight. Even when the tempest is raging, I know that I'm built for it. But it's a hard place to be when you're being shook.
That is true.
We can talk all this noise we want to, but when something starts to shake us, oh my God. And what we have to learn to do is that even though I'm shaking, I'm not shaking. Oh gosh, that says something right there. Even though I'm shaking, I may be shook outwardly, but inwardly, I know that I'm built for the shaking, so I'm good. Just like the plane, just because you encounter turbulence doesn't mean the plane is going to stop flying. No, it's just a little in-flight turbulence. So we're just going to take a minute and we're going to fasten the safety harness. Because even though my situation has me in limbo, even though you missed that in that, even though like my situation has me,
I did come looking down at my thing.
I can stand unshakable. I can still stand unshakable. And the way that I know that I can do that is I have to have the right mindset. Because you never know where the storm is going to come from. Like I said, we could take off with the blue skies and it'd be so awesome and beautiful and nice and calm, no clouds, no rain in sight, nothing, just a beautiful, beautiful, like, wow, this is a beautiful day. And then you get up in that plane and have the worst turbulence. Like, what is going on? Because you're flying a lot of times into uncharted territories, and you may not know what lies ahead, but you're flying, relying on someone else to navigate. Oh, ahead of myself a little bit. So therefore, what we have to learn to do is we have to understand the process. We have to know why we're here. It's one thing to have an idea, but it's another thing to know. And as I stand unshakable, I have to know, why is it that I am here in this place? Why is it that I am brought to this place in my journey? Why is it that I had to come down this current? It would seem natural that if a pilot was approaching the turbulent winds, because most of the time, I'm gonna tell you, the pilot sees it coming before you do.
Yeah.
And he'll go ding, and you'll be like, uh-oh, we must be heading towards turbulence. It's because he knows that he can see that there's turbulent winds based on the radar, that it lies ahead. But because the pilot has a destination, he's going to continue to fly, and he's going to make sure that the cargo on the inside is aware and prepared for the winds and the currents that are bouncing everything that we're about to walk into. Wants to make sure that you're prepared. So therefore, he'll turn the button and he'll say for you to return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts until the pilot has said that we're out of turbulent situations. That's something. Because the thing is, a lot of times, we'll step out, like, and I tell our story all the time. We'll step out into our situation and we're like, I'm ready for this. Woo-hoo, thank the Lord, I'm ready for this. I'm about to tap something, boy. We go, ooh, when we finish this like that, child, everybody gonna be wanting to be in it. Everybody gonna want to be in it. We couldn't even get through the introduction. Oh, when we finish this, woo-hoo, it's gonna be something.
Yeah.
That be in your mind, and it be your intentions, and it's good intentions. It's great. But at the end of the day, you don't know what lies ahead. But even though you may go into some uncharted territories where you've got people on one side saying one thing, and then you've got your staff on this side saying another thing, and then you've got the opinions of this person over here, and then you've got this right here, but what is in front of you is the vision.
Yeah.
So why is it that we pay attention to the current on the left and the current on the right when all that's going to do is shake you? It's designed to shake the situation because you're going into a cross barrier. So anytime you step out into the abyss of business and ministry and organizations, you're going to enter into a zone where you're going to cross barriers between currents, because everybody has an opinion. Sure. Everybody will tell you how they would do it. Everybody has an idea. Everybody know, oh, if I was you, I would do this and I would do that and I would do. You know what? I understand and I'm grateful that you got your opinion. And I'm grateful that you got your vision. But in this house, any vision other than mine is an idea. And I don't need your ideas for where I'm going. We enjoy sometimes, for some people, it's easier to enjoy a roller coaster ride than it is to go through airplane turbulence. Because you know why? You feel like for some reason, because it's connected to the ground, that you have control. You can control where you feel like you have control, when quite knowledgeably you really don't. With roller coaster rides, man, that's some crazy stuff.
Sure don't. That somebody else is
when we're going through situations in our journey. This is where a lot of people they'll get off the ship. They'll become afraid. They'll become disoriented why? Because they're not holding on to the safety harness. See, the safety harness is the vision that is before you. If you have written it and made it plain, and you know why you're here, and you know what you're supposed to be doing, then nothing can shake you to the point that you completely lose your bearings. I might be shaking on the outside, but I'm secure. This vessel might be tossing me to and fro, but I have on my safety harness.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, inwardly, where it counts, I stand unshakable. Another thing here, you got to confront the hard questions, because when you know why you're there, you're going to be faced with that hard, and most of the hard questions are coming from you. What have I done? How many times have you asked yourself that question?
Oh,
what have I done? Why did I do this? Oh my God. I'll never forget when I bought my first house. I had an anxiety attack in the office, and the realtor said, "Oh no, Mr. Wilson, just take your wife for a drive. She needs some air. I've seen this before. Take your wife for some air." And we drove, and I was like, "I don't know if we should do this." I know he was calm as a cucumber. I was like, "I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. I just feel overwhelmed. I don't know if something's gonna happen. I just feel like something's gonna happen if we get these people this check and blah blah blah." And I had a panic attack. I did, and I had to sit there and ask myself the hard question: why am I doing this? Is it the right thing? And all of this stuff. And this is something that, when we actually sit down and start dealing with ourselves in the journey, and we go back to this causes us to revisit the beginning. And when we go back to the starting place, we can answer the questions. They might be hard in the moment, but you already know the answers to the questions. You know why you're there.
You're right. You're right.
You know what you're supposed to do. You know what the vision is. You know what the calling is. And you did it because you obeyed the voice of God, and you believed in yourself. You believed in your vision. You believed in your dream. But when we're faced with those questions, sometimes it's the hardest thing to do. You got to stand unshakable, man. Know why you're there? Confront the hard questions. But the other thing is, you have to draw a line in the sand.
Oh, come on now.
Because hey, let me tell you, because some of the hard questions are not coming from you facing yourself in the mirror and saying, what have I done? Why am I here? Why did I do this? Some of the hard questions are not coming from that place. Some of the hard questions are coming from the current on the left and the current on the right. And sometimes hard questions from the current on the left and the current on the right are sent to kind of shake you a little. Yes, you're going to be shook. But there comes a point in time that you have got to draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. Okay, right here, this is where I cut this off.
Mm-hmm. You
got to answer the question, and you got to draw a line in the sand. Because, I can tell you right now, when I was young, boy, I used to fight. I don't know why I fought so much. I think, and I didn't start the fights. Everybody wanted to fight me for some reason. Boy, don't let me mess around and take my foot and draw that line. You draw that line, don't come across that line. You come across that line, it's on. And I would draw my little line with my foot, and I stand it with my little fist drawn. And boy, I'm like, you cross that line if you want to. You cross that line, you coming into my space. And that's how we have to be. We have to be protective of our vision to the point that we'll stand unshakable, that we'll draw that line in the sand and say, all right now. I hear you, Michelle. We'll draw that line. And we'll be like, okay, Michelle, I've had to draw many lines, many a day for that man you married to right now in your house, honey. He got into a fight with some little boys one day, and they put dirt in his face. I think he was in maybe Head Start, I think, kindergarten. Maybe he was in kindergarten. I was in first grade. I turned around, his whole face full of dirt. I said, well, who did that to you? And he pointed them out. So then I put him behind me because they were coming back to do some more. So they came back over there and I put him behind me and I drew a line in the sand. And it was two of them. And I said, you come across this line, I got something for you. And one of them came across the line. Boy, I gave him something, the other one ran. Because I was protecting my nephew, and that's how we have to be. We have to protect what's sacred to us, what belongs to us. We have to protect what's ours. So therefore, you have to draw that line in the sand. Stand unshakable. Know why you're here. Confront the hard questions. Draw the line in the sand. And next, we have to follow the leader. Follow the leader. We have a navigational system that is directing us. See, a plane, when, I used to, my ex-husband asked me, well, how they know where to go? Were they looking down and they're seeing railroad tracks or something? I'm like, not from that far up in the air. He was teasing. But the thing is, they have a navigator. You have the air traffic controller, and they have a navigational system. Because up in the sky, the pilot can't see. You can't see if another plane coming at 30-something thousand miles per hour. You ain't got time to be pulling over and blowing the horn. No. So there has to be strategic things in place that's navigating these flights. And every now and then you hear about planes colliding. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened in history. And that's because somebody's navigation is off. Air traffic controllers are very important people. They make a lot of money, but they're greatly overworked. And it's a very stressful job. But there is a navigator. You have a navigator, even though you don't know that, even though you can't see the turbulence, the pilot can't see it, but he knows it's ahead because of the navigational system. The navigational system and the air traffic controllers they're warning you that we're picking up something on radar. We're picking up something on radar, so you have to be prepared. But if you ain't paying attention to the leader, you chilling, falling asleep on your cell phone. You ain't paying attention to your surroundings. You're not paying attention to what somebody's saying to you. It happens in regular traffic in your car. You're not paying attention. You got your head down, and bam, somebody in the car. You're like, what? And you got a nerve to be mad.
You are so right.
That's the truth. So we have to learn to follow our navigational system. We have direction. I seek my direction from God. And the thing is, God gives us crystal clear warnings and signs all the time. We have red flags when it comes to people. All right. You really shouldn't let this person in your life. You really shouldn't let them in your space. You really shouldn't hire them. Oh, but my cousin told me he really needed a job, and I figured I'd give him a chance. Even though you had red flags, don't marry him. You got red flags. Don't let her come in your house. You got red flags. Don't take your child over there. You have red flags. We have them all the time.
Yes,
we do ignore the sign. We ignore the navigational system and the air traffic controller that is trying to protect us, because turbulence lies ahead. It just does. And if it catches you off guard, it can cause some great injury. So you have to make sure that you do all of these things so that you can stand unshakable, even though you are crossing barriers of different currents. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that. Stand unshakable. We need to, man. I got a lot out of that one. Trust me. Turbulence can causes changes. What when I did my little bit of, I said Nita's beautiful. Okay. I, when I was listening to Nita, I said, "Oh man, I didn't do as in depth as you did on turbulence." but it's when I really did my studies, and it really is an instability, unpredictable air movements, it's unrest and disorder, and that's how our lives are sometimes. There's instability in our lives, and life can be unpredictable and unrest, and God knows life can have disorder. So I wanted to touch on that tonight. Turbulence causes change, and the first point I want to make is change your altitude or speed. In life, we oftentimes don't, when you wake up in the morning, we get up in the morning, we do our morning things. We don't know really how life is going to be. We hope when you get up in the morning that everything will be all right, but sometimes there's changes that happen. And the altitude is when something rises. It's a height of a thing. And you know how everything could be going wonderful, and all of a sudden you have a rise, you have a change, you have something that all of a sudden becomes something that you didn't think that would happen. I was telling Nita earlier about my neighbor with her sister that passed away, and then she had a sister that died in February. So you don't ever know. Life can be on an even keel. All of a sudden you'll have a rise. And also then, it can also speed up as a rate of something that moves. And I was telling Nita, just look like we were just here like 2 days ago.
Yeah, it feels like
I don't know if y'all noticing, but it's life just seems to move swiftly. And I will say this: the older you get, trust me when I tell you I'm 60. The older you get, the faster life speeds up. And so there's changes in altitude when everything seems to be, wonderful. I've had days when everything was just wonderful. I remember when my mom got sick, she was in the hospital. They said, "Oh, she's coming home." We said, "Oh man, all right. She's coming home. She's going to go through rehab. She just had a stroke." We didn't think much of it. And then, all of a sudden there was a rise. And then, after two weeks after she was home, I remember my sister saying that they gave her so long to go. I say, to go where? You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, it was this altitude, this rise in my life, because it took my mind a few minutes to really wrap around. So I'm like, wait a minute, we brought her home because we wanted her to go to rehab because she had a stroke. So life does that sometimes. Changes will cause altitude and the speed. When you look up, things are happening so fast, you don't even know why. You think about how something may have happened 2 weeks ago, and you sit and you think like, gosh, and I know Nita experienced that, how you go back and you really, your mind begin to think how things change. Like, wait a minute, I plan, like even in our plan with this organization we're part of, we plan to have our stuff up and running. I went to Miami and I was ready. So I thought. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden it changed because I went down there to finish this thing up, and we was going to have this running, and so many people going to be blessed, and it's just going to be wonderful, and they're always getting ready to move to the next level, but that wasn't so. And that's how life does sometimes. The turbulence of life causes changes, and turbulence is not always a bad thing, because sometimes there has to be certain changes that maybe causes heartache and disappointments, but later in life, you look back and say, "Oh boy!" And I will say this: when I was divorced, when I went through my divorce, and it was a turbulent time, but I look back, I was like, "Told God, what took me so long?" So that change, even though it was a difficult change, it was necessary. So all turbulence that causes changes is not always a bad thing. And the next is don't run from, but run over challenges. In other words, there will be challenges. I'm here to tell you, don't run from them. Sometimes you have to run over them. Sometimes you have to turn toward reality. Sometimes we live in I'm gonna say live in a as a part of my life, I lived in my own little world because nobody was there but me. You know, I was living in a world that made no sense. I was living, I made my own rules. I went to bed when I wanted. It was just I can't hardly describe it. I was not in reality. And, you know, sometimes we get so caught up in where we are and we don't deal with reality in my own life. And so I really should have been really running to my changes, but they were running over me. So later on in life, because of my my issues, my turmoil, my heartache, my disappointment, who I was and who I didn't know who I was. I came up with my own reality, in other words. And so anyway, I don't want to stay there because that was a play. That was where I was. But sometimes you have to not only run from, but run over your challenges. So when things come, and the challenges will come, you know, there will be times that you can't allow them to stop you. You got to run over them. You know, you got to run over it. When you're disappointed, you got to run over. When you got heartache, you got to keep running. And sometimes we cause our disappointment. Say your organization did not do what you wanted to do, where you wanted it to do it. Like we were earlier this year. So we could have allowed that challenge to stop us, but we didn't. You know what? We ran right over that challenge, and we decided to say, wait a minute. We're going to still do what we say we're going to do, but it was not the time. So what if we had stopped? We would not have been where we're at now.
Exactly.
We could have caused that to say, you know what? I could have told Nita, say, you know what, Nita, this, you know what? I made a boo-boo. You know, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I didn't, you know, meet the challenge. And, you know, but I didn't. I still say, you know what? I kind of chuckled. First, I was hurt. I was so hurt because Nita, I ain't gonna lie, she was together. And I was like, yes. And I wanted to start doing stuff. I said, what in the ham and eggs have I done? But you know what? I did not cause that challenge. That could have destroyed me. But I knew that what was inside. I knew what I was called to do. I knew it, who I was. So a lot of times, like you said earlier, sometimes the outside may look a certain way. Our outside did not reflect what was on the inside.
Right.
So, you know, I kept running, even though I made such a boo-boo. I really did. But Nita, when I was on the way home, I just wanted to ball up in a corner, just ball up in a ball and cry because I said, God, I dropped the ball. You know, but God let me know that even though you dropped the ball, that's all right. You get up, go get another ball. That we can't worry about that. I can't change that. You got another ball, run with it. So that's my point. Don't allow your challenges to run you over, but run them over. And this is something, and you were built for this. Anita touched on this earlier. You were built for this. And it goes back to what I was saying, you know, all through my life, from the time I was 14 years old up to, I guess now, you know, I had my different times in my life, some hardness and disappointment. But even though I was 14 years, I was built for this. Because now, even though that time in my life caused me problems, but now I look at my children. You know, I had her young, but I look at her now, and then I look at my grandkids. So, you know, I was built for this. All the heartache, I was built, because it could have killed me. It could have allowed me to put a gun in my mouth, but I was built for this every step I took. So I'm here to let you know, regardless of what you're going through, every step you take, you're built for this. And you're this. Now, the problem is going to was for me that I had to determine what my this was. It took me some years to determine what my this was. Now I know my this was to really share with others, encourage others, let them know that you can overcome. So I'm walking in my this. I'm living in my this.
Come on now.
I'm living in my this. All of that was that, but now I'm in my this. So just know, just because you're in that season, don't mean that your this season won't get here. So you were built for this, even with your turbulence, even those things that cause changes in your life, those things that cause you to not be able to, that you thought you weren't going to make it, you know. And sometimes when I even think back over my life, I was like, God, I know it got to be a God, because, you know, I should have been gone a long time, but my this was waiting for me. And not on that, you have to remain focused. Don't get distracted. You got to remain focused, because stuff will cause you to get distracted. If you have an organization and it's not doing what you thought it would do, you wrote your vision and your mission statement, and, you know, you got your logos and everything. You got all your stuff packaged. And what if it didn't do what you thought was going to do. But you still have to remain focused and don't get distracted, because that kind of stuff can distract you. That kind of stuff will make you think, am I really called to do this? Did I do it at the right time? Or, and then what'll happen a lot of times, especially when you share your dream and your vision with other people, then you'll have people whispering in your ear, see, I told you, I know it wasn't gonna do that. And you'll have the naysayers, but you gotta remain focused, and you gotta know that you were built for this, and you got to know what your this is. Because if you determine what your this is, then you will remain focused regardless of whatever that thing happened, or what didn't happen, or what should have happened, or what could have happened. I thought, even with my book, I haven't given up. My book is still written, but I thought it'll be done by the end of the year. But you know what? I'm still focused, because I guarantee you in 2020, it will be out. And when me and Nita go and do those different, symposium in different places, our book is going to be on the table for purchase. So, but if you don't remain focused, you'll get distracted because it didn't happen in 2019. Right. It didn't happen in 2018. So you got to remain focused, and you got to know that this is your season. So it's my this season, and I know that. What I have to realize is that I'm just getting things lined up to where I'm going. So even though there's turbulence, and there's some things that causes change, and some things I did not like, some things I had to cry about, some things I had to moan about, some things I don't even remember I went through, but all that happened because there has to be a change. So just know turbulence causes change. Change is not always bad. Change actually can be good if you allow it to get you to where you need to be. The problem is we're so busy trying to stay where we are. And when it don't happen, we stay there, and we stay there. But I'm here to let you know that we're about change. We're about moving. We're about going to the next level. So even though you have turbulence, just know it's just getting you to the next level in your life. Mm-hmm. And there is no turning back now. Now, see, you've already said you've been called. You already said you've been anointed to do this. You already come
on now.
And your mission. You got your beautiful logo, and you got all your stuff packaged. You already got your book, and maybe not on the shelf yet. So there's no turning back now. Mm-hmm. You've already said that you've been called to do this, right? There's no turning back. Even when you look at the airplane, when there's turbulence, they don't turn back. They just tell you to buckle up and get ready. They tell you to buckle up, and that don't mean the turbulence is going to last the whole flight. Sometimes turbulence will only last for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. So you got to know there's no turning back in this turbulence, in this life, in this thing that you said that you've been called to do.
Come on.
You've already put it out there. So me and Nita put this out there, and we said,
we can't say, can I start over?
No, there's no, we don't get a do-over.
Ain't no do-over.
Get a do-over in this. No, we put ourselves out there, and we're going on 2 years, and there's no turning back now. We got to go forward. So now the first thing you need to do, you got to trust the pilot. The purpose. Anytime you're on a plane, there has to be a pilot. Mm-hmm. Because without a pilot, all the plane's going to do is sit, and it's going to sit and get, if you ever notice a plane, it's set in a certain place, and it will not move and take flight. Now they do take these little trucks or whatever it is and push the plane to get it in ready for the flight, to get them in line. Mm-hmm. But until the pilot get in there,
come on now,
the plane will not take off. So you have to trust the pilot. So the plane represents what you've been called to do. You're the pilot, and you have purpose. So you have to know that you've been called to do whatever your organization is, whether you're a cook, whatever you've been called to do. So now that you're the pilot, what you're going to do with what you've been called to do. Because it's a beautiful thing to put it together. It's a beautiful thing to do your mission and your vision statement. And like I said earlier, you got everything packaged. But what you're going to do with your purpose? What's the point of being a pilot on a plane when you never take off?
Come on now.
You have a purpose. God has given you a purpose. When we went with the movement, and like we said on numerous occasions, we prayed a whole year.
A whole year.
we're not exaggerating, we prayed
A whole year.
year. So we had a plane and we had a pilot, but we didn't take off. Until we decided on May 14th, when Nita did the first minute video, that was when the purpose became relevant. Mm-hmm. All we had was a plane and a pilot. In fact, we had 4 pilots. It depends. We had 4 people ready to fly, but only 2 stepped out with the purpose. We became the pilot, and we took the plane and we took off. Mm-hmm. And now we're walking in purpose. So like I said, what's the point of having a plane when it's just sitting there? Now, we had already put gas in the plane. We did everything to the plane. We had it serviced.
Fueled up, serviced, ready to go.
And all we needed to do was take off. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did. And that was our purpose. And the next thing is, when you're flying on a plane, and even when there's turbulence, if the flight attendants are calm, you're good. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the place when the flight attendants are a little scared, then it's time for you to get scared. And that represents people. When you're on a plane, it needs more than the pilot. There has to be people on the plane. So as we take flight, we realized that we could not do this thing by ourselves. Mm-hmm. We had to have some flight attendants. We had to have some other people. We had to have some people who come on Wednesdays who believed in us. We had to have some people who said, you know what, I got your back. I got you. We got to have some people who eventually will give into our bosom. Mm-hmm. So when there's no turning back. So if you have a vision and a mission, you got to understand that you got to have some people. We talked about last week about the importance of having people in your life. Mm-hmm. So you'll never be able to move forward. If I write a book, mm-hmm. what's the point of writing a book if nobody never buys it?
Come on.
So just know there has to be people that will support you, that will be there for you, that will believe in you. People that, like my husband believed in me, and other people, my daughters believe in me, and there's some other people, even Anita, Anita that believes in Anita and what she's trying to do. So you got to know that the flight attendants are calm. In other words, there had to be somebody that have your back. Anita said, girl, you got this. Mm-hmm. When you acting all crazy, say, calm down, daughter, you got this. I believe in you.
It's their job to stay calm. I have many times tried to look at the flight attendant to try and gauge whether or not I should be worried. But the flight attendant is trained that unless the pilot tells you that you're in danger, there is no danger. And you have to keep the passengers calm because they feed off of your energy. Mm-hmm. So even though we, like let's say how we flopped, but we still had to come on every Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. Even when we don't, like right now, we're getting prepared for 2020 for advertising and marketing and all of that stuff that we haven't done, but we still have to come every Wednesday night, whether it's one person or 20 people. Mm-hmm. Even when we were getting cut off on Facebook and Instagram, we still showed up and we stayed calm. Yeah. Despite all of the problems that we had when we tried to do our little thing, we stepped out of there, thought we had it all together, and then we were going to go to that next level at that point. We still had to stay calm. We had to sit our calm selves down and write them books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we had people who believe, there have been people who've been with us from day one. Mm-hmm. That believed in us. We believed in us, but then there were other people. If it was 2 or 3, they believed in us. They came, mm-hmm. They may not they could come on every Wednesday, but we'll see them coming. So, you got to know that you got to be calm and know that there's somebody out there will support you. Somebody's going to believe in you. And you also have to know that you have bumps along the way. There's a process. Even in the turbulence, there's some bumps mm-hmm. along the way. But it's a process. we're going to have some bumps. We're going to have some ups and downs. We're going to have some disappointments, but it's the process. You know, everything's not going to go the way you want it to. Every day won't be Sunday. And even Sunday is not always that wonderful, but there's a process. There's some heartaches along the way. There's some financial issues along the way. There's sometimes you question yourself, which Anita alluded to earlier, along the way. Sometimes other people question you along the way, but there's some bumps. And, you know, every bump and every situation causes growth, because what happened with us is because when we got together and I'm telling y'all, we was together up to the point that we weren't together. Because I'm serious. We had things together. Everything was lining up.
We did.
Until we realized that it wasn't lined up like we thought it was. Okay. But you know, but what that did was it made us go back to the drawing board, and then we had to rethink, and that causes us. And Anita made a very good point back then. She said, you know, yeah, we have the movement. We also have our personal ministries and organization. Hey, let's go back and work on that. And then we come back together. Hey, we tight because now, you know, she had some little rocks in the road. She had some pebbles. I had some rocks. But you know what? I thank God for it now, looking back, because now we got it together, y'all. Trust me. And what's coming is going to be very good. It really is. But anyway, there will be bumps along the way. And finally, will it matter in 10 years? Will it really matter in 10 years? And it talks about perspective. A perspective is a particular way of viewing things that depends on one's experience and personality. So the things that you're really going crazy about now, will it matter in 10 years? When I look back, what happened with 10 years ago, and I remember when I turned 50, and my daughter said, Mom, you want a birthday? I said, no, I don't want nobody to know I'm doggone 50 years old. No, I don't want no birthday party. I don't want that. But then 10 years later, I was like, oh, I made 10. I'm 60 years old. You know, but when I look back, my point is this: when I really look at my life 10 years ago and how I'm thinking now, what I thought 10 years ago really don't matter. It really don't. It's my perspective now, my outlook now, what I'm thinking about now, because I didn't think like I did 10 years ago. I didn't have the insight. I couldn't figure. I didn't know who I was, I know my name and then I know all that, but I mean who I really was and who God really called me to be until last year and I really began to say, oh man, I finally found myself after all these years. So my point is, will it really matter in 10 years? So what you're doing now, will it really matter in 10 years? Well, you know, your organization, your vision, your dream, because what I'm trying to build, I want it to be here long after I'm gone. I want it to be something for my children and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. Not only that, I want to bless people. I want people to say, you know what, I thank God for that organization, because they really made a difference in my life. You know, I thank God that one night they said that one thing that changed my life. And that's how life is sometimes. Sometimes it takes that one thing, that one person says something. I can even remember certain things that growing up in church, certain things that was said that really was a turning point. And that's what we want. We want help people get to the next level, to push you to destiny, to let you know that you matter, and let you know that, hey, will what you do now matter in 10 years? So just know there's no turning back now. You got what it takes, get moving and go forth.
Awesome. Man, let me tell you, I've looked at this slogan and I was like, you know how you hear you get a slogan in your mind, or you remember something but you don't know where it came from. And I had to look it up, and it was United that had this saying, fly the friendly skies. And we're talking about turbulence, and therefore, you know, it doesn't always seem friendly. When we're flying through turbulence, you know, that doesn't seem like it's a friendly moment. So is the sky really friendly? Yes, the sky is friendly, because everything there belongs to you. And it came from the friend who sticks closer than a brother. That's who holds everything in the palm of his hand. So when you start to navigate yourself through this process, it is a process. It's a process that it takes us to utilize all of the functions, the navigational system, the radars, the air traffic controller, all of that, symbolic to what we have to do with our own vision and purpose. We have to deal with our vision. We have, and I'm telling you a bit about me. If I don't write anything down, it does not exist. If I don't type it up and see a visual, I have visuals with color and charts and graphs. I have to see it. I have to look at it. It has to make sense to me. I'm not one of those people that got everything up here. When you got those people who got everything up here, like, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I got it all figured out. You don't have anything on paper. You can't send me a proposal. You can't show me nothing. Then guess what? You don't have it figured out. So I'm one that I have to make sure that I have all of my stuff, because I understand that the sky is friendly there, but there's still that funnel that you have to go through where you have the turbulence. Remember, that's the cross barrier between different currents. Everything, every position that you go into, every time you shift or you transition from, you may start out in Florida where the sky might be blue and clear, but then you're flying into a zone where there's a snowstorm. So therefore, the current is going to be different. And when you get to those places, you have to develop your eagle-like spirit and soar through the storm funnels. And so when I look at that funnel, when you look at that little cloud area where you have the circle on one side and the circle on the other side, I could kind of, in my sanctified imagination, when we talk about the eagle who takes that wind beneath his wings and flies above it, I could see him going on, having one wingspan on one side of that cloud and one wingspan on the other, and letting that funnel of wind that's meant to disrupt him cause him to soar to the next level. And most of the times when we're dealing with our storms and stuff, that's what it's doing. It is graduating us to go to the next place. But we've got to stop looking at everything so negative as though something is out to get you all the time. No, just hush and fly the friendly skies. They're your friend. Fly the friendly skies. Because all of us, one of the things that we have to understand is that all of us are in the same place right now, whether you have something that you're working on or not. Some people might think, well, I don't really have a ministry. Oh, and I don't have a business. Oh, and I don't have this. Oh, I may not, okay, you may not have all of those things, but guess what? For the mere fact that you are still alive, you are still breathing, you are still here, guess what? You got a whole lot to do, because you are in the midst of what I call transition. Type that in, transition. All of us are right here because we are exiting a decade and entering into a whole new decade. There can't be anything but transition right there. There's a whole lot going on. We're in the midst of right now. We're in the midst of people who talk about, who told you my business? You right now, we're in the midst of an impeachment process that's taking place as we speak.
Yeah.
We're in transition. We're entering a new decade. We're in transition. We're getting older. We're in transition. Next year, Lord's willing, life lasts, we'll be a year older. And do you think you just here to suck up air? No, you're here because of another thing. And I want you to type this in. Type in promise. You're here because of promise. God doesn't break promises. Now, what you do with it is something else. But when he promised you that he came that you might have life and have it more abundantly, when he promised you that you would be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, a lender and not a borrower, I want to be a lender and not a borrower. I want to be the first. I want to be at the front of the line. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. Those are the things that when God makes a promise to you, he means that. So we're in transition and we're in the midst of learning how to stand because of the fact that we have been given a promise. And when you are flying through the process, because you don't stay in the sky forever. You're going from one destination to the next. You're going from one situation to another. Me and Annette may have started out on one cliff and flippity flapped and fell on the ground, and we got up and we flew again, and we may have pulled over on the side to take a little bird bath. And guess what? We got to do from there. We got to take off and fly again, and we go to the next place, and we got something else we got to do right there. But then what do we have to do? We have to take off and we have to fly again. And each time that you take off, you're going to have to learn to soar through the storm funnels because they're coming. No one is immune. I used to hear Mr. Curry say this all the time. You're either in one, on your way into one, or coming out of one. But no one is immune to storms. So soar through the storm funnel. Why? Because it won't last always, because soon you have to prepare for your descent. You're going to land somewhere. And when you land, guess what? You got to prepare for a whole nother flight. When that plane comes in and all those people get off, the crew stays behind and they start cleaning the plane. And then you got the new crew that comes in and they have to prepare the plane, what? For the next pilot. So you have to prepare for your descent, because knowing that you're in the funnel right now, trouble don't last always. You won't be there forever. You're going to come down out of all of those funnel clouds and all of the turbulence, and you're going to land. You will see it because your landing strip is in view. There's always a clear landing strip for you. Even when you don't know it's there, out of nowhere, God has a ram in the bush. He always makes a way of escape for you. There's a clear landing strip in view every single time. When has he ever left you? When has he ever lied to you? When has he ever forsaken you? He hasn't. Why? Because he knew that you could make it through the storm because you were built for it. He also knew that once you got through it, you could prepare for your descent so that he could get you ready for the next one. So you prepare for your descent, and then you have the clear landing strip in view. And when you've got that clear landing strip in view, you are already set up for a safe landing. You're set up for a safe landing. The landing gear comes down, and you land safely. And at that time, that pilot comes on and tells you, and tell you what the weather is, partly cloudy skies, and blah, 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 blah. But that whole time that even when you're making the descent, it seems rocky. Even though you see the landing strip in view, but it's touch and go. You watching, and the plane might go a little to the left, might go a little to the right. It's wobbling, and you're like, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna make it? And then you get down, boom, boom, and then you just have to coast it out. You can woosah because now you've landed safely. But it is a little scary. It's a little scary stepping off that cliff. It's scary when you have to make that descent because the ground getting closer and closer and closer. But once you land safely, you can prepare for the next flight so that you can fly the friendly skies all over again. In flight turbulence, it's normal, it's common, it's unavoidable, but you can handle it. Why? Because you built for it. Type in, I'm built for this. I'm built for this. I'm built for this. And and Annette said something earlier that just got me, because everyone know what this is. And I typed it in, but I want you to also type in, I'm living in my this. I'm living in my this. So you say, I'm built for this. What are you built for? I'm built for this. Well, what is this? I'm living in my this. I'm operating in my this. Uh-huh. Yeah, all the things that you see me do, all the places that you see me go. You know, don't let your this sit on the shelf. Don't let the sermons just sit there. Don't sit there and put together all this stuff, all these plans, and just let your this sit there. Live in your this. Move in your this. Because you are built for this. And what is the this? It's the this that you're living in. It's the this that you see. It's the this in your vision. You're built for it. Woo-hoo. You're built for it. This is what you're supposed to do. This is where you're supposed to be. It's how it's supposed to be, people. How y'all feeling? How y'all feel about that in-flight turbulence? We're going to open up the floor for anybody who wants to say anything tonight. But Annette, let me tell you, girl, you got me with that one.
Oh.
I'm living in my this. Because, you know, like I remember, my mom used to say, when you say, well, they told me, and she always say, well, who is they? And you ever notice that you never could really say who they were? Well, who is they? I don't know, but so you're going to listen to somebody that you can't even identify? But I can identify my this.
Yeah.
I'm built for this. I can identify my this. And knowing that I'm built for this, I'm going to live in my this. It's the season. It's your season, Annette.
Yeah. Yours too, Anita.
It's your season, Woo. It's your season, Sharon. It's your season, Carrie, LaShavia, Linda. It's been your season. Marcellus, it's your season. Yolanda's your season. I don't know who iPhone is, but it's your season too. Who's iPhone? Who is that?
I don't know.
Michelle, it's your season. Some of us have been in our this. Some of us, this has been knocking us upside the head and calling us by name, and we just haven't, stepped into the this. It is your season, Michelle. In fact, then it's my season. Oh, Ernestine. Hi, Ernestine. It's your season, Ernestine. It's time to live in your this. I want to live in my this. I want to experience my this. I want to indulge in my this. I believe everything, call me crazy, but I believe everything that I've seen in my this. There's nothing that I can't accomplish. There's nothing that you can't accomplish in that. It's the season.
Yeah.
It's the season, good people. Wow. So, it's your season, woo woo. It's your season, girl. It's your season, woo woo. I feel it. And you've been getting beat up on here like on the regular.
Uh-huh.
It seems like every week. You're like, who told you my business? Why you all up in me? Why you beating me up? Who told you that? It seems like every week we're getting beat up. So, well, good people, we thank you all so much for coming. I want to stop our recording here, that I forget something.